Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. As a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platform, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over, and if you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? A lot to get into today. Big, busy Tuesday.
Big busy Tuesday, and we got some Tuesday night football to get to. A little bit of a rarity there, so yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Gas up the jet, baby. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Pull up a seat. You know we got to speak. Hey, let's do it, baby.
What could Drink be referencing? Let's find out. In episode 8, Dak Prescott goes down, Dan Quinn gets fired, and we recap the weekend in college football. But, of course, we're going to begin tonight with a new NBA champion. The Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Heat in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, earning the 17th franchise championship and capping off one of the strangest seasons in the NBA in recent memory. LeBron James accomplished what he set out to do 2 years ago with the help of Anthony Davis and a host of other veterans. The victory pushes LeBron to 4-6 all-time in the finals and becomes the fourth player in NBA history to win a title with a third different team. So, Drake, we'll get into the Heat also, but let's go ahead and start with the Lakers. Give me your thoughts on the win and what this means for LeBron's legacy.
Well, you heard what I said in the opening soliloquy. You know what I'm saying? Gas up the jet. Unfortunately, they had to stay 2 extra nights. Thought we was going to be out of there on Friday, but we was out of there on Sunday. So, I just want to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2020 NBA World Champion, the Los Angeles Lakers, led by LeBron, King James, and Anthony the Brawl Davis. You know what it is. And it's just the opening act, baby. You know what I'm saying? It's more show to go. Stay tuned. You know what it is. And you heard what LeBron said. Give him his damn respect. It is what it is. So, with that said, basically, what I got out of what I seen there in Game 6, Jimmy Butler, he gave everything he had in Game 5. I think the Miami Heat gave everything they had in Game 5. I mean, honestly, it was kind of sad to see because you can just tell when the Lakers turned up that defensive presence, and then it just wasn't anything Miami could do. They tried. I honestly do believe what I was watching, they was trying. They was giving it what they had left. It was just done. They was spent. Eric Spoelstra, he kind of hinted at it. It was what it was. That's how it goes. That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. When you playing the better team, they end up doing what they're supposed to do. And on both sides of the ball, listen, I know Anthony Davis didn't fill the stat sheet up like, we used to, but that man put on a clinic on the defense side of the ball. I mean, he had the Heat second-guessing themselves every single time they came in the paint. Every time they thought, Anthony Davis. And one thing I think was underlooked was the adjustment made by Frank Vogel when he put Alex Caruso in the starting lineup and took Dwight Howard out. We had got so used to seeing Dwight Howard in the starting lineup, you kind of assume, hey, this is what's going to happen. Frank Vogel said, we're going to hit him with the razzle-dazzle. This is the last game. We about to pack this up. AD, you going to play the 5. Caruso, you going to come in and give us that defensive energy. Caruso came in and did his job on the defense side of the ball. LeBron, Rondo, Dwight Howard, everybody, so on. This game meant a lot as far as you got to think about all the legacies that was impacted by this championship. You got LeBron. He finally won that elusive ring number 4. You got Anthony Davis now. He finally got a ring. So he was already considered a top 5 player. Now that kind of cements him in most arguments when you say, because the one loud outburst you had about Anthony Davis was, what has he won? Hell, has he even got past the second round of the Western Conference playoffs? Like, what are we talking about here? Now he don't have to worry about hearing that no more. NBA champion, it's on the resume. You know what I'm saying? Respect it or check it. It's on the resume. You dig? Then let's talk about some of the other guys. So you get LeBron and you get AD out the way. Let's talk about the likes of Rondo. It's been a while since he's been on that stage. Welcome back, Rondo. Championship Rondo. And let me tell you something. We call him playoff Rondo, and we call him that for a reason. He showed us in this series why we call him what we call him. It's a real thing, folks. He was down there. if you picking up what I'm dropping, you seen what Rondo was doing. Listen, spectacular in that Game 6. I loved everything he did in Game 6. He really stepped it up. Dwight Howard, this was once a guy that was washed up. Nobody wanted him. He thought he was an A player after he left Orlando. That was not the case. He had a bad attitude. He wanted the ball more. He was turning into a diva. But when it matters most, he sucked up his pride. He took that veteran minimum. He came over here to the Lakers, and he gave them valuable minutes in that center position, whether that was on the defense side of the ball, whether that's rebounding, whether that was just racking up the fouls to let people know we ain't going to be taking that bull job, however you want to slice it. He did his part when it comes to coming over and just being a role player. He left his ego at the door, and he did what he had to do. And let me talk about two other players that also won their third championship. One, we got Danny Green over here. He also another player that won his championship with 3 different teams. And, Danny, you better be glad y'all won, because I'm not saying what they was doing to your fiance was right, but I think it would have got worse if y'all would have lost this game. I'm just saying it probably would have got worse, because you were stinking up the joint, and yet and still you still in the starting lineup, somehow justifying minutes. But that's water under the bridge now because we got the ring. So then you got JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee also won his third ring. So, for what it's worth, he won his third ring. I ain't say he was a insulated player now, but he won his third ring. Quinn Cook won his second ring. Take that for what it's worth. J.R. Smith won his second ring.
Man's shirt was off as soon as that buzzer went off. What a guy.
And J.R. had the nerve to be the first person to touch the trophy on top of it. Anyway, with that said, listen, Frank Vogel, he finally got over that hump as a coach. So now what does this do for Frank Vogel's legacy as a coach now? I mean, he was kind of like, all right. He's not terrible, but we don't call him a great coach. But he did take those Pacers team to those Eastern Conference Finals and go head over with the Miami Heat. LeBron-led Miami Heat. But now he has a championship on his resume. So now we seen what they did for the likes of like Tyronn Lue. He went from relatively unknown to championship coach. Now he's at the top of a lot of coaches' list. So we think about what that did for his legacy as well. So all in all, not to hold this up, listen, I picked the Lakers to win. After everything that happened, I didn't think COVID was going to come and break up the season. I didn't think everybody would be stuck in the bubble. I didn't think, a lot of stuff happened that I didn't personally think was going to happen, but it did. But after all, the Lakers showed if you have a good leader and if you focus on the task at hand, you can get it done. For all the stuff I heard about, the Clippers was more mentally tough. The Clippers are more put together. The Bucks can beat the Lakers. They have more talent off the bench. It's only LeBron James and AD. Got that. All that sounded good until you actually had to sit there and put all your energy at living in one place. You couldn't be with your family. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. It takes a lot of mental toughness to make it through that for 90 some odd days or whatever, however long it was there. And kudos to the Lakers organization. Kudos to Jeannie Buss. She let Rob Pelinka do his thing, put these pieces together, even though we made fun of them, and I did too. We made fun of them, but it worked. At the end of the day, it worked. Even though the Clippers was better on paper, it worked for the Lakers. They the 2020 champs. They deserve it. And shouts out to Miami. I know we're going to get into Miami, but, hey, hell of a competitor. When you make it to this level, hell of a competitor. I think Miami did about as well as you can do in them circumstances. They lost their leading scorer. Jimmy Butler gave it everything he had. And he deserves every accolade that he got coming to him because of his performance. Those rookies, Hero, Duncan, Nunn, listen, that kudos to the Miami Heat. They'll be back. And I also want to say, I think a lot of people thought Eric Spoelstra was, one of the top coaches. coming into this season, regardless of the results, I think this might have cemented him at least top 3 coaching in the NBA right now. Because you can look at it different ways, but Eric Spoelstra took a team that nobody was looking for to the NBA Finals. Let's remember that. Nobody was checking for Miami in the NBA Finals until they made it to the NBA Finals. So that I give him a lot of credit for that as well. But all in all, it's over with. Gas up the jet, baby. We out.
Yeah, season's over mercifully, I might add. What a marathon season assisted by the old shutdown. Or you want to talk legacy? I think you got to start and probably end with LeBron James. A lot of people, and I'm not going to get into the GOAT debate right now. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But a lot of people, a detractor people will throw at LeBron James is the finals record, being 3-6 before this. Now he's 4-6, and we gotta just pay attention to some nuance to that. There was many NBA finals that have not went LeBron James' way, to where the deck was so stacked against him that there was no way he was going to succeed. You look back at his first finals appearance in 2007, it was LeBron and some drink of wisdom coffee mugs out there. The San Antonio Spurs were clearly the superior team. And then the 3 losses to the Golden State Warriors. And you remember 2015, Kevin Love got hurt in the first round. Kyrie Irving goes down in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, an impossible task. You had Matthew Dellavedova, people singing his praises, like, look at this guy, like he's dehydrated in 45 minutes, and look at him, he's trying so hard. And then of course, LeBron did the 3-1 thing in 2016, and that led to the Kevin Durant signing, and we all knew there was no conceivable way, barring catastrophic injury, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers would be able to circumvent that. So what I'm getting at is there has been a lot of these finals losses that you can just look at them and you kind of, they're there and they're valid, but it's hard to hold them really against LeBron James. This win seemed like LeBron actually catching some breaks, and that's not me trying to detract at all from this championship. But there was a few things that it went their way. The Milwaukee Bucks just forgot how to play basketball, in my estimation, before Giannis got injured in that Heat series. They just forgot. And then the Los Angeles Clippers, they just simply weren't who we thought they were going to be. And then in the NBA Finals, some of that injury luck that's went against LeBron in years past, that injury bug bit the Miami Heat. I still think at full strength, the Lakers probably win this series. But it's a tough ask when Miami's second and third best players go down. Talking about Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo. Adebayo, of course, returned in Game 4. Dragic tried to play in Game 6, but he simply wasn't himself. And by the time he even got inserted into game, it looked like it was already too late. That's how dominant the Lakers were in Game 6. It was an absolute clinic what they were doing, especially on the defensive side. But in totality, this, of course, I'm not sure I don't think it solves the GOAT argument. I think I think you're going to always have a faction of people that go Jordan and a faction of people that go LeBron. But it definitely is a strengthening argument for LeBron. This is now 4-6. 4-6 looks a lot better than 3-7. So that's a huge deal. I am going to say I'm a little glad the season's over. I think the King in year 17 is the most played out line that we've heard just the entire year. I'm surprised I haven't seen the King in year 17 bringing number 17 to LA, meaning the Lakers' 17th championship. I haven't seen that, but then again, maybe I just haven't been paying attention. But it definitely strengthens LeBron's legacy. Anthony Davis, big win for him, getting his first ring. I would caution on his legacy in totality, because I think it's real easy to say, well, what has he done without LeBron? What will he do in the future without LeBron? I think that's something that'll hold him back right now. But most certainly, there's no denying his talent and what he's meant to this team, and especially his ability on the defensive end is something that's so easy to undersell. I mean, we talked about Bam Adebayo, how important he is to the Miami Heat with what he does defensively. I mean, AD's just, he's the same player, just at another level. I mean, some of the things that he can do. I mean, one of the lasting images to me of the NBA Finals was Jimmy Butler, doing everything in his power to get to the rim. And there's just certain times where Anthony Davis is just having none of it. So his all-around game and what he was able to do, we can't undersell that. And those two guys were the driving forces to this championship. yeah, there's some unsung guys that are worth mentioning. I thought Rondo's performance in Game 6 was ultimately the difference. Just the way he was shooting the basketball in the first half. I mean, it was just a clear. It looked like a clear signal that there was no way Miami was going to overcome that guy shooting that well, and something that the guy makes 3 or 4 from 3. I mean, that's a clear giveaway to Miami's going to have no chance tonight. And then I thought we talked a lot about, who the third guy would be for the Lakers for much of the playoffs. Kuzma was a guy we referenced from time to time. I really think in the finals, I think a guy like KCP is a guy you have to pay attention to, who did a lot of good things. I thought defensively he was excellent the entire series. Really, I mean, some of these guys from Miami, whether it be Hero or Robinson, I mean, it takes a lot out of you chasing those guys off screens the entire game. And then he made some key baskets at different points of this series, especially Game 4. Hit that big corner 3 that put him up, and then had a driving layup to really put that game in some ways out of reach. But yeah, and you talked about all the guys, whether it be Dwight Howard, J.R. Smith, JaVale McGee, my Lord, the third ring. I mean, it's almost like James Jones times 6 at this point. Just so many guys just leaping on LeBron's back and just coasting their way to a ring. But definitely well-deserved to all these guys. They earned it. Miami, give them credit. We'll get into them in a little bit. They put up as good a fight as they could have. But I really think, when you go back to where we disagreed with at the beginning of the season and throughout the season until the Clippers got eliminated, I think the real big takeaway in all of this and where the ultimate difference was Frank Vogel did a better job than Doc Rivers. I think that's something we got to look at and say. The Clippers, I still believe, were the more talented team. I think in retrospect, maybe you can say the shutdown hurt them a little bit more than the Lakers, but they never got it together. Doc Rivers could never get those guys operating at maximum capacity. But Frank Vogel, to me, I thought he did an exceptional job. He had some challenges thrown his way. Speaking of Avery Bradley, I mean, that's a guy we brought up from time to time. I thought he was going to be a big loss. They figured it out. They mixed and matched. Guys like Caruso stepping up, Rondo coming back in the Western Conference Finals. It was a big deal. And then the way they defended the entire season, and especially in this NBA Finals, the Miami Heat, in some of these games, they didn't have a chance because of the excellent job and attention to detail they had with just simply guarding their man. And they did a wonderful job with it. And with their defense plus just the overall brilliance of LeBron James is why they're the NBA champions.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty short. We got a lot to get to tonight. I will say, first of all, before we talk about the teams themselves, hats off to the NBA. I think that's worth mentioning. This bubble was an absolute just complete success. Like, the NBA just put on a masterclass in dealing with adversity. Like, a professional sports league really hasn't had to deal with something like this to this day. And we talked so much about the bubble, but, this has been going on since July. No positive tests. They kept it tight. They kept it perfect. They did the thing. We were so many people wondering, this is going to last 2 weeks and someone's going to walk in there and get it. And then never happened. And it's just really amazing that we actually got the season to finish up on schedule just like we thought. So, hey, big kudos to them, and kudos to them taking care of the staff afterwards. I'm sure that was a monumental task, working something like that. But, yeah, for the Lakers, man, I mean, this is – we kind of, like you said, we kind of figured it was either going to be them with the Clippers, coming out of the West especially. And I think that there's something to be said for overcoming that kind of adversity as well, for all the things that happen. A lot of people want to put an asterisk on this championship and go, oh, well, there's a bubble. Like, it's everyone's in the same thing. They're all doing the same thing. So you can't give me that crap. I think what really you saw with the Lakers is that veteran presence and the leadership of guys like LeBron and Rondo really kept this team focused, and where a lot of teams just couldn't stay as focused, they were able to do so. And then when it came down to it, they were just the better team than the Heat. I don't think there's any question that the Lakers got lucky or something happened, other than the Dragic injury, which you could make that argument, but you really can't sit here and tell me the Miami Heat are clearly going to win this series with Dragic or without. So it didn't really seem to matter. I know he came back, but he was hurt, whatever else. So big kudos to them. For LeBron's legacy, real quick, I think it's unbelievably impressive to win a third championship with a third different team. The man's won with every team he's ever signed with in the NBA, and that's something to be said, from the Miami Heat, and then going over back to Cleveland to win his ring, and then over to LA. And a lot of people, I think, thought when he got to LA there was going to be a lot of it was more of a business decision, and he was really there to expand the brand, and he was there to soak up the sunlight, and just basketball would come be a secondary thing, which it's someone's 17 15 years in. I know it gets beat to death, but why wouldn't you be doing that? Why wouldn't you be thinking after basketball, and the man said, let me just go put up a 30-point triple-double in Game 6 and win the finals. No big deal. So just the man's built different, and it's just for all the Jordan, LeBron crap, it's just fun to be able to watch a guy like him play and continue to play at the level he plays at. So. But before we go off the topic real quick, we'll get into the Heat because we do give them some love. Y'all already kind of did, gutsy performance, hard fought. Obviously, that run to begin was quite a shock. So most of the team is going to be coming back next year. They're heavy on rookie contracts, and Jimmy Butler's still going to be around. So it really does beg the question as we begin to forecast in the next year, where does this team fit in the Eastern Conference? You've got the two-time MVP in Milwaukee still. You have deep, well-coached teams in Boston and Toronto. The Nets are about to get out KD, Kidd and Kyrie, and doesn't even talk about squads like the Sixers is hiring Doc, and there's some other teams in the East that could be decent. So, Drink, what does this kind of leave the Heat, and what do they have to do to be in this position again next year?
Well, I would say this. I think this lock them in probably the top 5 in the Eastern Conference. It is other teams are probably like, a little better than them at this point. But I think they need another piece. I said this, maybe last week or so. They need another, not a superstar. I don't think they need another superstar. I just think they need like another guy that's dependable, something like Jimmy Butler, maybe a level down. I said like a Montrezl Harrell or something that probably was not the best pick with his performance in the bubble, but just someone that they can, rely on where Jimmy Butler don't have to go out there and be the heart and soul. You got to think Goran Dragic, as good as he is, he's getting older. I think that foot is just going to continue to be more and more. Because when he naturally hurt his foot, it wasn't he just landed wrong. And it's like, okay, well, it's possible that can happen again, and then again, and then again. So you probably need someone else, just another piece to tie that up and take them over the hump. But ultimately, we'll see in free agency. We'll see what they can make happen in the free agency. We'll also see what the other top contenders in the Eastern Conference, what they do in the free agency. But as far as them making it back to the finals, it's a little hard for me to see that as each team stands right now. Let's see what moves they make, and then let's revisit that and probably have a more clear answer for you.
Yeah, I agree with Drink. I think they do need another piece because, we got to be – I think we got to be – I don't think any of us saw Miami going on this run. If you just said before the season, like, and as much love and respect as we got for Jimmy Butler, if you'd have looked at me and said, in the preseason, like, hey, Miami's making the finals with Jimmy Butler as their best player. No, they're not. But that's what happened ultimately. So to have that same thing happen again, I think it's going to be that's a hard sell for me at this point. I think top 4 in the Eastern Conference, that's a reasonable expectation for the next year without making any additions. I got to remember, this is Pat Riley we're dealing with, so who knows what he has up his sleeve. But yeah, you definitely like to get better. I would say bare minimum, as much as we talked about the Andre Iguodala addition, we know for the most part it seemed that was more for veteran leadership than actual production at this stage in his career. But you'd like to probably have an Iguodala type guy, just one maybe a wee bit younger and a bit more productive, like as Drink was alluding to, a guy like Montrezl Harrell to really solidify that bench. But beyond that, down the line, maybe they do. Maybe they're able to make a play for the Greek Freak down the line, and that would definitely, in my mind, that would put them the favorite. Period. But we'll see how the offseason goes. But there's too many unknowns for me. In the big wild card, there's one wild card in each conference, even for the Lakers in the West. In the East, you got to think about Brooklyn. You got to think about what that's going to look like with KD coming back, him and Kyrie teaming up, and all the other young talent that they have that it's easy to forget about. And then in the West, Golden State's going to be back. So we got to pay attention to them. We got to think about that. They're going to have a pretty high draft pick in the lottery. We'll see how they utilize that. But there's going to be a lot of competition. I'd say the top 6 in each conference is going to be really competitive. There are a lot of teams that are going to be able to make runs. You brought them all up. Toronto, Boston, both of them will be back. Milwaukee's going to be the same thing. We'll see if they can finally break through. And then West, we'll see what the Clippers do. I expect some big changes for them, but they'll have Kawhi. We'll see what he can do with them. Denver took some strides forward this year, and as we see, they're a team. No matter what the deficit is, they're not going to quit. They're going to keep coming. And then the usual suspects. Utah will be around. We'll see what Houston does and what coach they hire. And Dallas. I think Dallas is a team to look out for down the line. So there's a. I wouldn't say in no way, shape, or form do I see a rematch coming next season at all.
I would generally agree with that. I think the Heat – I think you have to be careful if you're the Heat because I don't think you want to break up this nucleus too much. I know it's tempting to go, well, we almost got there, so let's just trade all these young guys and go get a superstar, and then we have Jimmy Butler and this other dude. And if you pull too much of this apart, the whole thing could kind of fall apart. I think that what you saw is, boy, they're really good together, but if you could kind of – change a few things around the edges and get another nice star player. And I think that you would probably look at maybe a second big man to take some of the load off Adebayo, especially like the defensive side of the ball, and maybe another ball handler because, Dragic is definitely not a spring chicken like you guys said, so maybe another younger point guard to come in and be a true, facilitator for this offense. You got plenty of shooters, which is something most teams don't have, which allows you to go shopping maybe different than other teams will. And like you said, we have no idea what's going to happen. Just in the conference, you could see the Sixers trading one of their two guys. Doc Rivers comes in and runs one of them off. That's just one of a million things that could happen. But they do have a max salary space open, or will be able to make one open. So I guess we'll see.